the most enigmatic city many travelers and explorers aspired to go to. To get there, they endured years of hardship, long treks through the desert, heat, hunger, and thirst. Their lives were threatened not only by intolerable diseases, but also by hostile locals. This city was lost in the sands. Legends about its wealth spread throughout Europe. The Dream City, the Cursed City, Timbuktu. How did Europeans search for the legendary city rumored to be full of gold? Why could nobody get there? What curse was plaguing those who dreamed of money and fame? And what does Theodore Géricault's painting, The Raft of the Medusa, have to do with it? This is History Adventures, and today's story is about the Dream City, Timbuktu.
We chose this topic for a reason. It is linked to the stories of many other archaeologists. Johann Burckhardt, who found the rock city of Petra, and another famous archaeologist, Belzoni, who found the Book of the Dead. That's why I want to introduce you to this city. That's why the characters in these stories searched for Timbuktu. I found quite interesting that Burckhardt pretended to be a Muslim for years, took great risks of getting caught and being killed, but kept on trying to get to Timbuktu. Along the way, both Burckhardt and Belzoni made historical discoveries, but they were never able to reach Timbuktu. They both died. They were not the only victims of the desert who perished on their way to the Golden City. I've decided to find out what was it about this mysterious place that people risked their lives for, knowing that nobody ever came back. Well, let's see.
Back in 1795 and 1805, the Scottish explorer Mungo Park attempted to find the fabled Golden City of Timbuktu. He organized a large expedition of 40 men, but over time, the number dwindled significantly due to deadly diseases and attacks by Arab tribes. In 1806, Mungo Park drowned in the Niger River, in present-day Nigeria, while trying to escape from the arrows of attacking locals. 20 years later, in 1827, Mungo Park's son, Tom Park, also set out for Africa to uncover what had happened to his father. However, not long into his journey, he fell ill and died of fever.
Further, in 1809, the Swiss explorer Johann Burckhardt went in search of Timbuktu through Syria, and on the way discovered Petra in Jordan, but ultimately never managed to reach Timbuktu. In 1816, he died of dysentery in Egypt. But he managed to tell his friend, the Italian explorer Giovanni Belzoni, about Timbuktu, who then set off searching for the city in 1823, and also died of dysentery in Benin. And before this event, back in 1813, an American sailor named Robert Adams confidently claimed that he had actually been to Timbuktu just a couple of years earlier. According to his story, he ended up there after his ship was wrecked off the coast of Africa. He even published a book in London titled The Narrative of Robert Adams about this adventure. Inconsistencies in the facts presented in the book were discovered even then, leading most researchers to believe that Robert Adams' story was entirely fabricated. Most likely, Adams did travel to North Africa, but he never visited Timbuktu. Instead, he described the city based on stories he heard from locals.
In 1824, the French Geographical Society, driven by a keen interest in the region and a desire to explore the city, offered a reward of 9,000 francs to the first non-Muslim who would dare to venture to Timbuktu and thoroughly document their experiences. Do you know why they wanted to do that? Yes, it was part of their efforts to explore and ultimately attempt to colonize it. The first European believed to have visited Timbuktu was the Scottish explorer Alexander Gordon Laing, who successfully reached the city in 1826. Laing's expedition faced severe hardships, including relentless attacks by nomadic Berbers, but he still managed to reach Timbuktu and remain there for an impressive 38 days. Unfortunately, the explorer was forced to flee due to escalating hostility among the local population. On his way back, he was tragically captured and brutally strangled by order of a local Islamic sheikh, who deeply feared the threat of European colonization in the region. After Laing's death, all of his expedition records kept during the journey disappeared along with him. The fact that he had successfully visited Timbuktu became known thanks to the traveler's final letter, which he wrote to the British consul in Tripoli, the capital of Libya.
So all these attempts to find the Golden City have been unsuccessful. But in 1799, in a village near the town of Rochefort-sur-Mer, René Kallies was born. This city was a major base of the French Navy. René's childhood was difficult. His father, François Kallies, a humble local baker, was tragically accused of theft just 4 months before his son's birth and subsequently sentenced to an unforgiving 12 years of hard labor. 9 years later, he died in prison at the age of 48 alone. 3 years after his death, the mother died. At the time, René was only 13 years old. After his mother's death, René and his 18-year-old sister were raised by their grandmother. And despite the fact that René lived and grew up in a poor family, he learned to read and write. As a child, he loved adventure books. It may have been a kind of escape from the harsh reality for him at the time.
And eventually, he realized it was time to completely change his life. His grandmother had passed away. The young man took the 60 francs he had inherited and left his home, joining the French Navy as a cabin boy on the ship Loire. This ship was part of an escort squadron, which included the frigate Méduse and 2 other vessels as they set sail for Senegal.
Now some of you are getting a slight tingle inside when you hear the phrase frigate Medusa. Yes, that's the frigate. The Medusa was shipwrecked off the coast of Mauritania. The frigate's crew was desperately trying to escape on an overloaded raft. They fought against nature elements and each other. This episode formed the basis of Theodore Géricault's famous painting, The Raft of the Medusa, which the artist painted in 1819. The remaining 3 ships of the squadron arrived in Senegal, where René Kallies resigned from the service and started traveling. One day, he got hold of a book by Mungo Park, the very first European traveler who had searched for Timbuktu and tragically died. Travels in the Interior Districts of Africa was its title, and it was dedicated to the first expedition of the traveler who explored the middle reaches of the mighty Niger River. Deeply inspired by what he read, René Kallies got the idea of finding the legendary city. He knew that no European had ever returned from there. But it was not until 1824 that he was finally able to realize his ambitious plan.
René decided to use the same trick as Johann Burckhardt, the discoverer of Petra, that is to pretend to be a Muslim. René Kallies spent several months in Mauritania, learning the Arabic language and the laws of Islam from the local Muslims. He developed a whole project of traveling to Timbuktu. His only hope was that the governor of Senegal would approve it and give him money for the journey, but the latter didn't want to fund it. It seemed like a total fiasco. But René Kallies was not discouraged. He was no stranger to life without money. So he decided to earn it himself through hard work. He got a job as a superintendent at a British indigo plantation, a plant grown to produce blue dye. And he saved up £80 for his ambitious journey to the legendary city of Timbuktu.
He adapted so well that he easily passed himself off as an Arab from Egypt to join a caravan heading deep into Senegal.
The journey with rest stops took a year. Look at the map. He came all this way. At the busy river port of Sa in Mali, his boat was part of a caravan of 30 riverboats traveling down the Niger River to Timbuktu, the fabled city of gold and mystery.
And finally, in April of 1828, that very Timbuktu appeared before his eyes. But wait, let's not rush. Before we enter it together with René, let's learn a bit more about this city.
The city of Timbuktu, Mali, was founded by the Tuareg at the end of the 11th century as a camel caravan trading post. In the language of the Eastern Tuareg, the name can be translated as the place at the end of the earth. Timbuktu originated in the inner delta of the Niger River, so irrigation systems were built there, and agriculture and cattle breeding were practiced. The main crop was African rice, a type of rice that was domesticated in West Africa about 3,000 years ago, independently of the domesticated Asian rice that is more widely known and cultivated across the world today.
An extensive trading network stretched across the Sahara. It underwent several changes due to economic and political factors.
Notably, the city of Tagaza, established near salt mines, played a crucial role.
In 1352, the famous Arab traveler Ibn Battuta visited the city. He described how the inhabitants built their houses and even a mosque out of blocks of salt. Instead of roofs, each building was covered with camel hides. The salt made this land completely barren, but the residents thrived on the profits from trade.
Salt from Tagaza was transported by caravans to the cities of Timbuktu and Gao and distributed further. In Timbuktu, this precious salt was exchanged for gold from the famous mines in southern Mali. Timbuktu grew and developed rapidly, becoming a center for the exchange of salt for gold. There were Berber, Arab, and Jewish merchants. Ivory and slaves were also traded there. In the early 14th century, Mansa Musa, the ruler of Mali, built his palace in Timbuktu, as well as the famous cathedral mosque made of clay and wood.
Mansa Musa is a truly legendary figure. By some estimates, he is widely considered the richest man in history. Seriously, in the ranking of the 25 wealthiest people in the world published on October 13, 2012, he took first place, surpassing the powerful European Rothschild dynasty and even the iconic American entrepreneur John D. Rockefeller.
In 1324, he performed the Hajj, a pilgrimage to Mecca, as a devout Muslim should. The ruler's entourage included a huge caravan of camels and a string of slaves. According to some sources, its number was 60 or even 80,000 people. Perhaps these figures are exaggerated, but it is known for certain that while traveling through Egypt, Musa generously gave gold to the local ruler and court officials, while his associates paid for goods with gold and generously gave alms to the poor, leaving a lasting impression on everyone they encountered.
As a result, this brought down the value of gold in Egypt for an entire decade. Can you imagine that? A single caravan from Timbuktu crossed the country, and it caused the price of gold to collapse for 10 years. The abundance of the metal led to its depreciation and an unprecedented increase in prices. At that time, Timbuktu was indeed fabulously rich.
In the 15th century, Timbuktu became the site of a major Muslim educational institution, making the city a significant center of Islamic theology. As a West African Muslim saying goes, salt comes from the north, gold from the south, but the word of God and the treasures of wisdom are only to be found in Timbuktu.
At its height, it is believed that this newly established institution housed between 400,000 and 700,000 manuscripts. While the exact number of works is difficult to calculate, it is likely to be several tens of thousands of original works. To this day, over 100,000 manuscripts from Timbuktu are preserved, covering not only Islam and Islamic law, but also secular sciences such as history, astronomy, mathematics, music, biology, and many other fields of knowledge. This library employed numerous copyists, which made manuscripts another important commodity in Timbuktu, further enhancing its status as a center of knowledge.
In 1468, Timbuktu became part of the Songhai Empire. Many Islamic scholars from Mecca and Cairo came to the city. Many of them were close to the court, and some even became trusted advisors to the emperor, shaping key decisions. The city grew and developed.
But the Golden Age of Timbuktu ended in 1591 when the Sultan of Morocco, Ahmad al-Mansur, captured the city and looted its gold reserves. In a harsh display of power, he accused the Islamic scholars of sedition and took them to Morocco. Subsequently, the city experienced natural decline and ruin. Its impoverished state made it difficult to maintain a large unit, and the small Moroccan troops were powerless against the raids of nomadic Berbers, who periodically captured and ravaged Timbuktu.
The trans-Saharan trade suffered a severe blow due to the great geographical discoveries. Do you recall the story of the Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama, who, for the first time in history, traveled by sea from Europe to India around the coast of Africa? This discovery led to the establishment of European factories trading settlements on the African coast. Much like in India, these factories later became strongholds for the subsequent European colonization and exploitation of Africa's resources and people.
The establishment of permanent sea routes connecting West Africa and Europe marked the beginning of the decline of the trans-Saharan trade in the first half of the 19th century. It was faster and cheaper to transport goods by sea than by the slow camel caravans. The same thing happened to the Great Silk Road, which effectively ceased to exist in the 15th century due to the rapid development and dominance of maritime trade.
So when René arrived in Timbuktu, the city was in a state of disrepair, with dilapidated mud brick houses scattered throughout. Locals leisurely sat on mats in front of their homes, chatting or taking relaxing naps. Trade in the local market was sluggish, and the overall appearance of the city was provincial. 2 weeks later, René Kallies quietly left Timbuktu and made his long journey back to France.
For his contribution, René was awarded a prestigious prize from the French Geographical Society. As promised, he received 9,000 francs and was also awarded the Legion of Honor. In 1830, a 3-volume book by René Kallies detailing his adventures in Timbuktu was published in France at public expense. With the prize money, he purchased a small estate in his beloved homeland. However, in a few years, he grew weary of the quiet life and began planning a new journey to Africa. But in 1837, he died at the age of 38 from the effects of malaria, which he contracted on his travels in Africa. European doctors had little or no skill in treating the disease at the time. This is how the so-called Curse of Timbuktu eventually caught up with René Kallies, nearly a decade after his legendary journey. This mysterious curse, however, is explained quite simply.
Hostility from the locals, combined with the prevalence of unfamiliar and often deadly tropical diseases at the time, made the chances of European travelers returning alive from Timbuktu exceedingly slim and perilous. However, in 1893, France finally managed to annex Timbuktu. As a result, the region became part of French Sudan.
After several political and geographical changes, it became part of the state of Mali, and it was this country that gained its independence from France in 1960. The impoverished yet historic Timbuktu stubbornly continues to live on. Today, its population is around 50,000 people, holding on to its legacy. When you hear the story of this city, it seems incredible. In this small dot on the world map, the destinies of many famous people and entire nations intertwined. It also bears the marks of events from both African and European history. All of this happened thanks to the trans-Saharan trade routes that passed through Timbuktu. The city was something of a powerful magnet for people and goods of that time, where naturally, some of the wealth passing through it settled. Moreover, in this melting pot of diverse peoples and traditions, a powerful culture emerged where contrasts provided fertile ground for creativity and growth. This vibrant culture gave rise to the knowledge, stories, and legends of Timbuktu, which have far outlasted the city's golden age, resonating through time and memory.